spirituality here in the old city of Jerusalem at Esha Torah, overlooking the Temple Mount. Just wondering if you can hear me from the microphone over here. You hear the microphone? I'm tapping it. Oh, great. Tell me if you want me to tap it in the future. I could tap it anytime. Let me make a bracha on my water. Boch ata Adonai. Shahakol nibudvo. All right. Just please, if you're watching this on Facebook, share it. If you're watching it and like it, obviously, and you can get it to land every time I go live. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, and if you're watching this or listening on Torah Anytime, subscribe as well. And if you're interested in more people hearing these words, join the media club, YomTovMediaClub.com. YomTovMediaClub.com. Here we go. So we're holding right now in the 9 days. And these are the 9 days before the destruction of the Temple of Jerusalem, which is, literally right outside this window. You can see the destruction of it. And we're in a particularly broken state right now. We're in a broken state. And not all of you are necessarily feeling so broken, which is really good because, I spend the majority of my life not in a broken state. But I help a lot of people in a broken state, and I want them not to be in a broken state. And I do my best to keep people from being broken. And I've kind of become an expert in helping people repair themselves. But today we're going to talk a little more about embracing brokenness, because in a way we really are quite broken, and it's a time to be aware of that and to be acutely present to just how broken we are. And perhaps one of the best ways to do that is to go through the priority list of God. God has a priority list? There's a priority list of God. Yeah, it's, you mind grabbing me that sitter up there? Right there, there's a Art Scroll sitter right there. So you'll see there's a priority list. It's the brown one there. There's a priority list that God feels are, top priorities. And we actually repeat this list 3 times a day. And I think you'll get a sense of how broken we are if you just hear the list real quick. I know a lot of you didn't want to come in here and find out how broken you are, which is, tough luck. It's like, get into the times. Literally right behind me, 200 yards behind me. I would show you, but I think the cable would come out of the wall that's keeping this phone going, is the Temple Mount. And it's broken, and the Jewish people are extremely broken. We're extremely broken, like embarrassingly broken. I have to say that I spend a lot of my time a bit humiliated as a Jewish person. Just a random example is politically. Politically, the state of Israel has been, built by secular people who are not interested in God, not interested in Torah, not interested in value systems that are eternal. They're not interested in any of that stuff. They're really quite socialist and kind of atheist by nature. And that's who founded this place. That's who built this place. That's who runs this place. That's what's going on. Now that's a good example of broken, right? That's pretty broken to have that be our situation. Does that mean we don't have gratitude? What do you think? Gratitude or no gratitude? Everyone say gratitude on 3. 1, 2, 3. Gratitude. Yeah, gratitude comes into play here. We've got highways, we've got hospitals, we've got the army, defending. There's even the people you'd call kooks in the government have dedicated their entire lives to the continuity of our people. And even though you probably think they're all always bending over for Western allies, meaning you sense they have no spine. But you should know, if there was an existential threat, they would just say to hell with America. Literally, they would just say to hell with America. If we had an existential threat and U.S., France, Britain, or any of those other allies out there wanted us to kind of lay down and die. Even the biggest yellow-bellied Israeli leaders, which is all of them, would suddenly, their belly would switch colors, and they would fight like lions, and ruthlessly too, and they would even preempt it. They would even preempt it without even, they wouldn't wait around for the existential threat to send its first threat. They would actually just get the job done and let America, work it out, work out the aftermath. So again, they are wimps. And how do we know they're wimps? Who can give me the biggest example of what wimps our government are? No takers? Come on. It's like the most obvious thing in the world. You have to remove the board and the wall behind me. And how do you see what wimps our government are? Imagine your local shul. Imagine your local shul gets, God forbid, burned down by arsonists. And you're like, you put together a whole fund, and we're going to rebuild the shul, we're going to make it even nicer, we're going to do this whole thing. And then the local city government official comes to your door and says, we decided that we're not rebuilding your synagogue. You can't rebuild your synagogue. You got to just leave it like that. You just got to leave it. You're like, it's the synagogue of the city. This is the Jewish people's place of prayer. What do you mean we're just going to leave it? You don't just leave it. You can't leave it. You got to build it. And no one would ever consider that even remotely normal. And this is just being citizens of a Gentile city. But here we are, citizens of a Jewish state with a Jewish government and a Jewish army, and we leave our Temple Mount in ruins. And we have a mitzvah every single day to rebuild it. Every single day. According to the Rambam, we are supposed to be heading over there with hammers and nails and saws and drills, and you should have a bunch of 2x4s on your shoulder heading over to the Temple Mount to get the job done. Now, our government is concerned that it might not be so well politically received to do that. There might be a couple angry Muslims. Does the Rambam mention that you don't rebuild the temple because there's angry Muslims? I didn't notice that little phrase there. Who's running this place? You understand? Yeah.
But what about Pikuach Nefesh? If you're going to destroy it, they might start a war and you won't save all the Jews.
First of all of this should have been done a long time ago when the war was going on. We had our second chance in 1967. We blew that chance. And that was the big chance, was 1967, when all the Arabs ran. And Arabs know war. War is you either win and you kill the other side, or you lose and you get killed. Except they were fighting the Jews. And when the Jews win, they say, oh, come on back and come back to your homes and let's all be friends and let us build schools for you and hospitals for you. And they didn't realize what war with us was like. So they actually emptied the place. The place was empty. And the government said, come on back. And we've been going through hell ever since. Yeah, and it would have been totally understood by the world. Now today, it's a much bigger deal. So it's a much bigger deal to just go rebuild the place. Anyway, that's one example. But there's another major example, and this is just another one that's just obvious, is that with everything I just described of the leadership of Israel, and obviously, we're Jewish people are a tribe that does have certain values, and do believe in a creator, and do believe in the prophecies, and we believe in all the stuff that the state doesn't believe in. So you would think that if we were having elections, that every Jewish male with a yarmulke on his head, and every Jewish female who's, at least covering some of her body, would be in absolute unanimity in who to vote for, such that Torah would have some kind of traction in this country. That would be like the most obvious thing in the world. That would make sense, right? I mean, don't we all have that in common, such that if there was an election, there would be for sure one candidate with his constituents, and there would be a unanimous vote amongst all Sephardic Jews, all Yemenite Jews, all Persian Jews, all Ashkenazi Jews, all Hasidic Jews, all Lithuanian Jews, a full-on agreement amongst all the Moroccan Jews. But what we see is the exact opposite, is that the vote's torn to pieces because everyone's looking for their slice of the pie, and we are I don't even want to say these words, but we're basically the same as the seculars when it comes to unity. And our allegiance to Torah seems to make zero difference. Our allegiance to the prophecies, our allegiance to God, our value system makes no difference when it comes to this. And this is real slicing of the pie of Israeli tax dollars that are not going to hit everybody who thinks Judaism's important. They're just not going to hit the important matters of our country. So anyway, those are a couple examples of how broken we are on the local or immediate version. But when we look into our 3 times a day prayer, I think that we will also get that feeling. I'm going to switch straight to. I'll do it really quickly. It's just the Magen Avot is just talking about our forefathers and that our forefathers are the archetype for behavior, and Abraham's for kindness, and Isaac, Yitzchak is for discipline, and Yaakov is for kedusha and Torah and stuff like that. Okay, these archetypes are just, like we're even us people in this room are like, we're like stretching to somehow, like, meaning of, like, I don't know, if Jacob were up there with Esav in heaven, and they were both deciding, like, they were going through all of us in this room, and they were like trying to decide whose grandchild. Meaning, are you Esav's grandchild or are you Jacob's grandchild? And they're just going through the mix, like, to see who. And now you hope they kept the snapshot while you're in class right now, and you hope they don't check the snapshot maybe in some other situations you can get in during the week, or when you're out of Israel, like situations you can be in. But we can all be in full-on Esav situations. Now, it's not that simple, obviously. Meaning, if I'm mountain biking, and I'm like racing down the mountains, and all the muscles are flexing, and I'm like, just, slamming my bike down these hills of Jerusalem. Obviously, Esau's going to be like, that one's mine, and Jacob's going to be like, he's actually mine, but he's a bit of a hybrid. And then Esau's like, he's mine. Jacob's like, he's mine. They would have a tug of war over me, because I'm kind of doing everything together. But a lot of us would have found ourselves in Esau's court a lot of the time. And so that's the beginning, that's the first of the blessings, is that allegiance. The second one has to do with fixing things. So it talks about resuscitation of the dead. That'd be nice for those who've lost loved ones, which is all of us. Supports the fallen. Right? There's people here who are in a fallen state, and we at least know people in a fallen state. Heals the sick. Yeah, there's hospitals filled with people right now, and people dealing with all kinds of illness. Releases the confined. There are people in both literal confinement all the way to just, constricted consciousness. There's whatever. And then the last one is the sanctity of God, which is you are holy, your name is holy, and the holy ones praise you every day. Are we really in our holy state? Like, are we really experiencing holiness? And the answer is yes and no. Yes, we're experiencing holiness in as much as we're dedicated to holiness, and no, we're missing huge amounts of what it takes to even be holy, because, just for example, we don't have the red heifer that purifies the Kohen that we can actually do the stuff that purifies us. Meaning, like, let's just say you blow it on Shabbos, and you made a mistake on Shabbos, just a mistake. I know no one here would ever break Shabbos purposely, but if you accidentally broke Shabbos, so you're not so well right now, and therefore you head to Jerusalem. Like let's just say someone blew it on Shabbos. I don't know what they did. What did they do? They poured hot water over leaves to make a tea, and wound up cooking the leaves. And there was this, I blew it. Like I just poured hot water over leaves. I just cooked myself up tea. Now, obviously they can't drink that tea, so the tea's out. But they also will have to get to Jerusalem, preferably as soon as possible, and they actually bring a sheep to the temple and slaughter the sheep. Can you imagine if you had to slaughter a sheep every time you blew it on Shabbos? You know, it's like, and by the way, no one was blowing it on purpose. No, there was no such thing as blowing it on purpose, because, I mean, that was just such a huge deal that no one did anything on purpose on Shabbos. It was only accidental, and if someone did something accidentally, they would just bring a sheep. Anyway, we're missing that holiness. The next is for wisdom. I know a lot of you came to this class to hear Rabbi speak or to hear me speak, but I go to someone else, and when I'm in his presence, I'm kind of, it's a bit humiliating to call myself a rabbi when I'm with him, because the differential between his Torah and my Torah are the difference between a Jew and a Gentile. And whenever he talks about his Rebbe, you sense the humiliation that he's currently called the Rebbe. Because if we had any idea who his Rebbe was, it would be the distinction between a Jew and a Gentile. And his Rebbe felt the same way, and his Rebbe felt the same, and his Rebbe felt the same, and his Rebbe. So the first thing we're asking God for, which are these is a whole list of God's kind of goals. These are God's goals that we ask 3 times a day. The first thing we're asking for is to get our heads on straight. We just need to get our heads on straight. And oh my gosh, there's so many times we're supposed to ask questions when we don't, especially interpersonal stuff. I mean, just this last 2 weeks, I witnessed a family crisis that was so much toxicity. No. No one knows for sure. Toxicity?
Yeah.
Toxicity. So much toxicity that people are hurt probably forever. In a lot of the emails, multiple people are hurt probably forever. They'll probably never get over it. Now, had I been more involved at the beginning, I would have noticed that it was the 3 weeks that I noticed every 3 weeks this stuff comes up in different homes, in different families where things get toxic. And all of us carry something that Eckhart Tolle calls a pain body. In the Possible Use seminars, I call it the inner negative, it's called the misery comfort zone. But all of us carry a certain amount of pain inside of us, and it feeds off other people's pain. And during the 3 weeks, we're in the height of our pain, and our pain can gather together with other people's pain, and we can create a drama that is so toxic that all kinds of people get hurt, irreparably so. And therefore, it's really important during the 3 weeks is to keep it light until after the 3 weeks. If it's really such a big issue that needs handling, let it be handled after the 3 weeks. But don't go into a major dramatic adventure with loved ones during the 3 weeks. That's just not a good idea, because everyone's pain bodies are at their height, and pain bodies feed off other people's pain bodies, and You'll notice if you're in a grouchy mood, you'll find someone grouchy to have a gripe with. And you'll both you'll just love being angry at each other for a moment. It could be a total stranger, by the way. You'll magnetically find a grouch in your most grouchy state. And that grouch found you. And you're both going to perfectly feed off each other and who knows what, road rage or something, And anyway, but this particular crash and burn drama that happened this last 2 weeks, and it literally was from the day the 3 weeks started, had they asked a rabbi one question, had they just sought the insight of a rabbi, not me, by the way. I didn't have I was privy to the situation, but I didn't have the insight they needed. They needed someone big. And had they just gone to one big rabbi, and by the way, in the end, someone did go to a big rabbi. And in one line, the whole thing was over. But all the hurt is in. The hurt's done. And I know the nature of the hurt. It's the kind of hurt that an apology is not going to mean anything. You know what I'm talking about? Where someone said something that was a real gut anger at that person. And you could apologize for saying it, but you're never going to get out of the fact that they now know how you feel. So what's the point already? What's the point of apologizing? It's just going to reopen things. So it's better just to leave it at just, pure, just anger. Anyway, so that's insight. And all of us need to ask more. We just got to ask. Don't make your own mistakes in life. Speak to someone who's answered this question 100 times. And you may think your question's unique, but the same people who are really good at answering questions from past cases, they also generally have killer instincts for fresh cases. And they also have fresh eyes. And they're also quite wise. And they're also dedicated to God. And also God knows that you put it up to them. So they're now going to have siyata deshmaya. The term siyata deshmaya means divine assistance. Because think about it, if you put it up to them, the question, now God's going to send them the answer because you're kind of you put it in his court, and he doesn't know what to do, but his instincts are going to kick in straight from God for the right answer. So that's the first thing, is insight. Second one's pretty obvious. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that, and that's teshuvah. That all of us have to do teshuvah. And if some of you think you're fully observant, can I remind you that the garments of your soul are thought, speech, and action. So you have your actions worked out. I'm not sure you have your speech worked out. You may have your speech worked out. I'm not sure your thoughts are worked out. So you understand, those are the garments that you wear in this world. Those garments, this is a different class, I'm not going to go into it, but you send up your garments every night that you go to sleep, which is a good reason to do teshuvah on your bed at your bedside, sit on your bed and do the 4 steps of teshuvah, which are stop, say, regret, commit. Stop what you're doing, which probably if you're already sitting on the edge of your bed, you stopped. Say what you did to God. Regret what you did. What does regret mean? If I had the clarity then that I do now, I would never have done it. That's regret. If I had the clarity then that I do now, I wouldn't have done it. That's regret. And then commit. And just, I'm never going there again. Now, you may go there again 24 hours later, but the likelihood of you not going there having done those 4 steps is much higher than ignoring those 4 steps. Now, when we go to sleep at night, we send the garments of our soul up. And our soul's garments go up and have a little judgment upstairs while we're sleeping. And so it's a good idea to clean off your thought, speech, and action. It's also a good idea to keep your thought, speech, and action pretty clean during the day so that you don't have to do this whole process, in any major way. Keep yourself pretty clean. Anyway, that's teshuvah. And just one more thing about teshuvah is that your clarity of purpose, your clarity in your life is going to be much stronger if you're clean with God. You want to be clean with God. and if you're having trouble being clean with God, you need better peers. And if you don't live amongst good peers, so then you have to put something on a scale. The price of having good peers versus the price of not having good peers. So, meaning your soul's eternal. And, I meet people who are like, what do you want from me, man? I'm at University of Arizona. Where is that, in Phoenix or something? Is that Phoenix? In Phoenix, Arizona, like, I'm like the only person I know who even believes in God, and I'm in the middle of university, like, what do you want from me? And the answer is, put it on a scale. Your soul's eternal, your body's in Phoenix, you're in the wrong peer group. What would it take for you to be in Phoenix and be good? How could you be in Phoenix, Arizona, and be good at the same time? The answer is, well, I'd have to be in a very good environment for a period of time till I get enough strength to be in Phoenix. Well, how long would that period be? I suppose probably a year. A year of the right environment. I think I could probably keep Shabbat in Phoenix, Arizona, and keep kosher. Yeah, I'd say a year. Okay, well, go to the registrar's office and tell him you want to defer a year. But then I'm going to graduate when I'm 23. So what? Your soul's eternal. Graduate when you're 23. Keep your soul alive. And keep that soul, keep yourself alive. And just put yourself in an amazing environment for a year and then go back and finish your degree. Or transfer to New York. East Coast colleges have observant people in them. And you can be in a somewhat kosher environment in an East Coast college. Okay, that's enough about teshuvah. The next one is forgiveness. That one's too scary, so I don't want to talk about that much. Just because, how are we ever supposed to ask forgiveness? I mean, when you did something to somebody, so then you can ask forgiveness, but how often do you even know? How often do you know? And how do we even know the impact of the things we're saying at a Shabbos table? I mean, you just never know. And very few people have the courage to pull you over and let you know. I was at what?
Do you need to know to ask forgiveness?
That's another good point. Maybe not. Maybe just ask forgiveness, like, God, forgive me for all the people I've wronged and hurt. And
every night, sure.
Yeah, you can. Well, we ask forgiveness every night in Shema, but to ask forgiveness, may they all forgive me. In Rabbi Shalom, we ask them for forgiveness too, don't we? Do we ask that they should forgive us? No, we are Moichel.
We forgive them, right? Yeah.
We forgive them, yeah. Yeah, you better hope everyone's doing Yom Kippur Katan. There is a line on Yom Kippur, actually, that I forgive everybody. That everyone should forgive me. I think there's a line that wherever they are, they should forgive me. Whatever, the point is that there's all this hidden lack of forgiveness. And we never know. I gave it of our Torah at a Shabbos table what happens is I'll do a Shabbaton and I'll do like a big dinner, and then all the donors who donated the scholar in residence will like have a lunch together where the rabbi's there. So they asked me to give it of our Torah. I gave it of our Torah, and I perfectly offended everybody horribly. And I just could, and when thank God someone pulled me over and told me, like, the next day, which made me just feel terrible. On Sunday, someone said, by the way, guess what happened at lunch? And there was just no way I could have known this, but this particular city and this particular group of people had a unique situation take place. And they all got badly hurt there in that situation. They were all kind of injured people, and somehow that week's parsha in Mind of our Torah was like salt in the wound, right there. And that was my Devar Torah at their meal. And it's like, and I was like, do I ask them all for forgiveness? And she's like, the lady was just like, no, just leave it. It'll just be another, mark on your soul, for having hurt all these people during lunch. But it was seriously like, what are we supposed to do? Just put duct tape on our mouths? you know, and just hide. It's so easy to inadvertently hurt somebody. That's forgiveness. The next is redemption. And hey, what's up? Table for two? You guys want to quickly jostle yourselves so they can sit together? Guess not. Okay. What's up, guys? Welcome. Where are you from? You look like you're from Miami or something.
Michigan.
Where'd you get that tan, man?
I actually met you 3 years ago. You're great with the guitar.
That's why you're here, probably. You know,
Encore performance.
yeah, an encore. Sorry, I don't have no guitar right now. Even if I did, it's the morning the temple. So. Yeah, my fingers are ready to play guitar. You know the world of outreach has changed because I used to play all 3 weeks, 9 days. I played the entire time. It was almost like I could count more days I played during the 3 weeks for secular groups because you played for them. If you have a secular group, that the difference is going to be the joy of a concert. You know, with a Jewish concert, then you know you play all the way till teshuvah. You don't play on teshuvah, but there are those who would even play on teshuvah. I personally wouldn't. And I haven't played during the 3 weeks in like 10 years now, because you know that was about the heyday of outreach. Ended in like 2008, and so, and I haven't like held a guitar during the 3 weeks. Not 10 years, but years. It's been years. Like I know a lot of people want to like pretend the Cure movement's still where it was, and but it's like that's a serious marker. If these fingers haven't hit the fretboard, you know, during the 3 weeks of mourning the temple, so you know times have changed. By the way, people are still becoming observant. They're just not wearing backpacks. You know, like, why would you put on a backpack and travel across the world when you can just go to Google and ask every question, get every counter argument? Like, it's all there. You know, so I'm not sure less people are becoming observant. I think it's less because there's not that wave of excitement and stuff. So it is less because there's no wave. It's all individuals. But many individuals are becoming observant today through the internet. You know, because all the research is there. Everything we ever taught is online, and you have all their counter arguments are right there, and you can hear a believer speak, and now you can go hear an atheist speak, and you can make your you know place your bets. So, anyway, the next was for redemption, and that is like. Is how many of us really care? I mean, do you really want redemption? First of all, there'll be no reward for good choices. When the Jewish people will be redeemed, it'll be so open, the miracles will be so open that you can't really get reward for good choices, which kind of, in a way, it kind of neutralizes what you're doing here. I mean, if you were to do the right thing now, it's like very meaningful. If you were to do the right thing when everything's like, you know, all the lights got turned on and it's like clear, God's right in your face, you know, and God's presence is like coursing through your veins. Doing the right thing is kind of a joke. You understand? It's like not cutting off your own toe. Like you don't get reward for that. No one wants to cut off their toe. So do we really want redemption? And if the answer is yes, I mean, do you guys really want redemption? Yeah. Who said yeah? You said yeah? Why do you want it?
Because there'll be no more pain.
There'll be no more pain. That's beautiful. Why else?
Clarity.
All the people that are away from Judaism.
Okay, yeah. Like you may be doing it and getting all the reward. There's millions of people out there who are you know, they're just not even on the right page.
Even if they're not in the right page, if they do it once as redeemed, there's no purpose for them doing it. So
it's going to be very different when redemption comes. Things will be very different, and the but it's going to be super cool, and it's going to be super holy. And I mean, I think all of us have experienced this. If you ever been, not all of you, obviously the SEM girls in the back haven't experienced this, but and you shouldn't experience this, at least until temple times. But anyone who's been to like a major rock concert, if you've been to a major rock concert, like I'm talking like 30,000 people at like a rave or something where it should be fairly techno, and there's a beat that's playing and everybody's moving to the exact same vibrational energy there. You know what I'm talking about? It's undeniably powerful, and you don't want it to end. It's just like you don't want it to end. There's a unity, there's a clarity, there's a knowing that there's an ineffability, meaning there's a words can't describe it. In fact, even what I'm saying probably means very little to the SEM girls in the back, but there are certain people in the room nodding and smiling, but they can't explain it. They just know it. It's just it's one of those things it's called noetic, where there's a knowledge of it that you can't describe, and these things exist out there. They usually don't have mechitzas, and that's a divider between the men and the women. Which is a shame, because I think the Jewish world could use a couple experiences like this. I think it would be really good for us. We do have our experience, but only the Hasidim generally get that experience, and that's Lag BaOmer by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. We do have this vibrational day with tens of thousands of people. It's really close to 750,000 people. I think it's actually the biggest party on earth. The last I checked, there's no party bigger than it. But it's because it's spread out all over. I mean, I think the biggest dance floor holds maybe 20,000 people at once, which is still a lot of people, and the vibe's pretty intense there. Anyone here got to go experience the vibrations of Lag BaOmer this year? You guys got it? Yeah, did you get into the vibes? Did you get it? Not everyone gets it. Some people are there and they're just like, oh man, like if one more person steps on my foot, I'll go kill somebody.
I got forced into the vibes.
Forced in the vibes. But did you ever catch it? The vibe?
I didn't.
You didn't?
I did in Yom Yerushalayim in the Kotel.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's a big part of it too. Okay, now anyway, but even though we'll lose free will, the vibrations are going to be really something special. Really, really special, and it's worth it. It's very worth it, and I like what this nice lady said about ending of suffering, because that's, if you're not suffering, so then maybe it's better you get the reward. But billions of people are suffering, and wouldn't it be good if they weren't, even if it meant you don't get as much reward? That'd be nice. Yeah.
But negating free will would basically preclude any point of us being here, if what Torah says is true.
Right. So I know what you're saying. Someone else mentioned that too. Free will isn't what we're actually. Free will is what you're doing here, but it's not what God created the world for. God created the world for connection.
Sorry, say it.
God created the world for connection. You were brought here for your own little video game of free will. So on an individual level, you have your free will, and you got this like kind of scorecard. You're in the U.S. they have these exams called Scantron exams. It's multiple guess. You know what I'm talking about? These multiple guess exams. I know you call them multiple choice, but I call them multiple guess. And it's a multiple guess exam, and you take this lead number 2 pencil and fill in the little bubbles. So life is just, this is just a way for the U.S. to save money on people grading your tests. They just feed it into a computer, which holds the key to the proper answers, whatever. For those people from America, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, that's what it is. So life is this really, really long Scantron sheet. And you're making choices all the time. And you got to fill in the right bubbles before it goes into the machine, which is when we die. When we die, then your sheet goes into see what the right answers were for all the choices that you made in life. And I'll just have you know that, just so everyone, it should just be said that the thing that is the hardest for you is the one you came here for. The thing that's hardest for you is why you're here. a lot of us, the one that's hardest for us is exactly the one we don't do. And we're like, God would understand. God would understand. Some girl told me that God would understand that she must only wear pants. Yeah, she must only wear pants. Because I don't know what her whole scene was, but she had an issue with skirts. Okay, whatever. But God would understand. But we don't know if God put us here for that. And we actually do know that probably your biggest test is that. And where do we know this from? Where do we learn this from?
Abraham.
What?
From Abraham.
Okay, Abraham. I mean, that's an extreme archetype of the ultimate sacrifice. Is his son Isaac. You can go. What else? Where else do we know this from? So I'm going to tell you where we know it from. Most people don't know this. It's an amazing thing. What do we say right after Shema Yisrael? We say, V'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha. You shall love God with all your heart and all your soul. And what's the last one? V'chol me'odecha. Now that should raise a red flag. The word me'odecha. Why? Because me'od it means a lot, but it's an adjective. Yeah, ma'od means more, or very. It means very. It means very. Like if someone asked, what did you think of it, you might say it was tov, but if it was very tov, it was very good, you'd say tov ma'od. So it means very. And I think there's even another grammatical term for an adjective, like the word very. Does anyone know the term for the word very? It's not just an adjective, it's got another special term in grammar. I forget. But asking the wrong crowd. Sometimes when I see this many people sitting, I'm thinking like, I get all my answers here. Like, does anyone have a battery pack to charge my phone? No, I know. She has one right there. So I love numbers because there's always, and you should know this, by the way, anything you ever need, if there are like 50 people around, just call it out. Because of 50 people, someone's probably got it. You know, anyone have a credit card? You know, try that when you get to the checkout stand. So anyway, how do you love God with your very? And you'll see that like the art scroll sitter, like this sitter will say, it'll say your resources, but it does not mean that. The word mo does not mean resources. You know, I promise you go to Hebrew Olpan, no one's going to tell you resources is the word ma'od. And then they add the echa, me'odecha. Love God with all your mode. So what do you think that ma'od is? Love God. How do you love God with all your very? So you know what the answer is? It's loving God with whatever you very, very, very much don't want to do for God. That's your very. It's like exactly the place where you draw your red line. It's meaning where you draw the line with God. That's your very. And different people have different varies. You know, some people have it. Well, I don't even want to mention it so people don't feel bad if they. I shouldn't have mentioned pants earlier also, but I rarely do such a thing. But the whatever is the very that we likely are saying to ourselves that God would understand this because He knows how hard this is for me. And meanwhile, no, the whole point of your life here is surrender. You're only here to surrender. I mean, anyone notice that at the end of your life you have to surrender everything? Like everything? The car, the house. I mean, you have to surrender your loved ones. You know, when all of us think about the pain of the Holocaust, most of it is the surrender that we hate. And yet all of us are heading straight, like we're all in a conveyor belt that's literally going to dump our bodies into the ground. And our souls will go up. And we're going to lose every single thing we have. And everyone knows here, like you lose something during the day, you know, God forbid you lose your headphones or, you know, you lose your watch. Something disappears. It's a different day. You're like, it's a hard day. You know, the sunglasses are gone. And you know they're really gone because you got off a bus and they're just on that bus and the bus just drove off. And the rest of your day is marked by that. And meanwhile, every single one of us are going to lose every single thing we have. Now, for some of you young people who, like, you all look like question marks to me right now. Because think about it, your feet are on the ground, then your body goes up to your, to your backside, and then your back, and then, you're all sitting there like, you all look like question marks. Who am I going to marry? Where am I going to live? What am I, how well will we do financially? What's the health of my overall life going to be? How many kids am I going to have? You know what I'm saying? It was like question mark after question mark after question. What's going to be my career? You're all a bunch of question marks. And you know what's going to happen throughout your mid to late 20s, like beginning 20s to late 20s, is you're going to turn every one of those, all your question marks are going to they're all going to go to chiropractors. Not that I believe in chiropractic, but they're all going to go to chiropractors. And they're all going to become these very straight what? Exclamation points. This is who I married, and this is my career, and this is my car, and this is my city, and this is my neighbor, and this is my house, and this is my sunglasses, and this is my watch, and this is my, this is it. And then there's people who reach, what's your name? Earl's age. And then you reach Earl's age, and all of a sudden all your exclamation points start like, you're kind of looking at your wife going like, who the hell are you? And you're looking at your car and you're like, this is what I've been driving, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? People turn 50 and I'll tell you, Harley Davidsons are safer than affairs. So at that point you buy a Harley or something. And you buy a Harley yet, Earl?
Not yet. No.
Not yet. Don't buy a Harley. That's dangerous. Both are dangerous. Yeah, so anyway, this is, by the way, this to me is one of the best reasons. I mean, it's not the true reason, but one of the best reasons to become fully observant as a Jew while you're young. Because it is so painful. It's so painful to hit your 40s and 50s and have all your exclamation points become question marks. I mean, it is really hard. It's hard times. It's an existential crisis that I know when you're young you'd think, well, okay, I'll deal with that when it comes. But no, if you have any way to prevent it, I promise you prevent it. You should prevent it. And what's amazing is that Torah doesn't necessarily save you from it entirely, but because your value system is so eternal and so like committed, and it's so like Shabbos will just get you through it. Being part of the observant community will get you through it. The fact that you still pray 3 times a day with those same old guys, you can ride through that period of time. You're not just some island. You're not this isolated life experiment of choices made years ago where everything's turned into question marks again. You understand? You're part of something so much bigger and so much more solid that you're really doing great. But by the way, all of this life what do we call it?
Life crisis.
What? Midlife crisis, sorry. All that midlife crisis was parenthetical to our discussion because all of our exclamation points are going right off a conveyor belt at the end of our lives. Because I know it looks like you're the one getting taken away, but really everything's getting taken away from you if you think about your own perspective. When you die, it looks like, right, when we know someone's dying, we feel like they're being taken away. But what do you think they're feeling? Right? They're feeling everything they've chosen, everything they loved, everything that was important to them. At least in the physical world, but it's being removed. Like it's literally getting taken out from under you. The carpet is going to get ripped out from all of us, from under all of us. This is why you'll notice that great people in, let's say something random, early 19th century art and literature. The classics, like the best of them all. So if you go to the best, let's say, the best writers of early 19th century, which are really some fabulous fabulous authors. You know, the 1800s was just in Europe's literary tradition. It's like some of the best writing, and you get sentences that are a paragraph long, and it's the biggest adventure, that one sentence, that you're touched and you're moved forever, having read that sentence that was like literally this long, a paragraph this long, single space, and I mean, it's just amazing stuff. But when you go into the biographies of every single artist, every single musician, every single composer, every single author, when you go into their biographies, there's always a brush with death. There's always a brush with death. Check it out. Go read the biographies of all the greats. There's always a brush with death. Either a sibling died, a parent died, they themselves almost died, someone died. And they saw the end of the conveyor belt right in their face when they were kids. And so they put on their running shoes as kids. They got busy as kids. They didn't have this giant kind of nebulous buffer zone where like you get to pretend like nothing's important. You know, something that this is a luxury that our society has afforded you is to not know what the hell you're doing for 10 years. Meaning somehow between like 15 and 25, you have this grace period where you get to say, yeah, I'm a total screw off, and isn't that neat? And everyone's just like, enjoy the years, you know, enjoy it, you know. But you want a lame life, blow 10 years off. You know, what makes you think that blowing off 10 years of your life is going to make a good life for you afterwards? You need those years. Those got to be solid years. But for example, in the secular world, from 18 to 22, you are completely and utterly off the hook. But many of them let you off the hook even after that for a while because you're not sure what you're doing yet. And the people you're meeting also were not sure when they were your age, and so you're still kind of off the hook. And sadly, many people get to their 30s. You're not off the hook anymore. People want, you got to be able to show something at that point. And so, but it gets exponentially harder to show something for yourself if you've been blowing off the previous years. It gets exponentially harder to pick yourself up then. And therefore, taking a 10-year vacation is never a good idea. I can't even take a 3-day vacation. Like, I can take 3 days, but that's my max. Like, I basically, if my wife and I go on vacation and I see it's going to be more than 3 days, on the 4th day, I'll schedule a class. I don't care if I have to teach a bunch of Buddhists in India, but I got to give something by the 4th day. I can't sit around and sunbathe for more than like 3 days. You know, I'm all talked out. You know, my wife and I are like, we're like in heaven, everything's great. Day 4, like I've got to contribute something to this planet at that point. And yet, many people have been given off years where contribution is not even considered a very high value during those years. And you don't have to contribute anything to society. You get to be in this kind of sponge mode, which is cute and sweet, but it's the yeshiva community also lets you sponge for a while. But there's a lot of men, I meet a lot of men who learned in Kola. They got married, they learned in Kola. But I met a lot of men who are 25 years old and in the observant community, and they really don't know their contribution is because they've been riding the yeshiva wave for years and years, and it's gotten too late for them. And they're also undertrained in the professional world, so now they're going to have to hustle. And that's why you meet so many Haredi black hat Jews in New York, New Jersey, and other areas are hustlers. By the way, they're great guys. When I say hustle, I don't mean meaning whatever they own warehouses, or they're doing property management, or they're building, or they're doing great stuff. But it's almost always, hustling. Now, The next is healing. Next step is healing, refuah, and I don't think I need to discuss that much, but obviously there's a lot of people who could use a healing, and we could be much more sensitive to them. There's probably people we should be visiting. There's probably sick people we should be helping. I got to pick up all of a lady's stuff today. A lady walking with a cane dropped all her stuff, and it was just kind of a yard sale, and I got to be the closest one to the situation and do something for some lady who cannot bend down, but there's people out there that we know that are ailing, and they need phone calls, need support, they need a visit, and many of them need to be healed, and we can help them in some way or another. And there's no physical ailment that doesn't have some kind of a psycho-emotional component, and a lot of us have work to do on that. For some people in this room, they probably think it's normal to catch a cold once in a while. Right? Raise your hand if you consider that normal to catch a cold once in a while. Not a big deal. Okay, so almost everybody. Yeah. So it's not normal. You never have to catch a cold, ever. You just don't, meaning, okay, once a year, you can maybe catch a cold. Prescription medication, a couple times a year is normal? No one's raising their hands now after getting busted on the last one. Yeah, no, it's not normal. You shouldn't, if you're having prescription medication more than once a year, I suppose, twice a year, I don't know what the numbers should be, but you got to work out your stuff, because these are, especially at your age, you should be just a lean, mean fight machine. You should be so invincible. Your immune system should be, really at its height right now, especially at your ages. But it should stay that way well into your 50s. You should basically forget your doctor's name, and you don't even know where your medical card is after a while. You're really, really super fit. I just saw what time it is. I'm way over time. What's going on here?
One more class.
What is it?
It's Searching Soul Part 2, and that's the end of the day.
Who's teaching that? You are? Sorry. I just looked at the clock. Oh my gosh. Shalom, everybody. The rest of the requests, you'll just notice if you go into the rest of the requests that we request every day in our silent meditations, you'll see that we're deeply wanting on every single one of them. And as much as we're usually holding in a very nice space in this class, this week is discussing where we're broken. And if you look into each one of these, you'll see we're just totally shattered, one after the other. And we got a lot we got to fix. Please God, may we fix it soon in our days. Amen.